This episode will reveal something about your attitude. It is so important to understand that attitude, yes, it does change your altitude, but it also can change your latitude. And latitude equals reach. Who are you impacting? How are you impacting them? And also, how are you leaving legacy with your attitude?
We're talking about attitude today, Coach Ivana. So real quick, have you ever experienced, maybe in work or business with a client or anywhere you can think of, someone had, or maybe even yourself, terrible attitude?
100%. We're human, yes.
Yeah, of course. Talk about it real quick. Experiences, whatever it is.
Someone's bad attitude, someone's bad night, you're coming into a new day, maybe it's the workspace, maybe it's going into an audience, whatever it is, but they projected their pessimism onto me.
Whoa.
And I had a choice to make. This is not going to change the trajectory of my day. What I'm going to do is be responsible in that moment and hear what they're saying, pray for them, and then release that because it's not mine.
Yeah, that's
I'm
awesome.
fine.
It's just that I'm fine.
I'm good.
Well, you know, the reason why I asked that is because a lot of people have thoughts about attitude. Well, have you ever heard the quote, your attitude determines your altitude?
Yes.
Yes. All right, very cool. It's a popular saying. It's very, very popular. And a lot of times you'll hear this from leadership or people who've been coached. They will tell them this whenever they feel like someone's attitude isn't matching where they want to go.
Right.
But truthfully speaking, I disagree with that statement to some degree because it's not a complete thought.
Okay.
Right? Because we're talking about flight and the flight of your life.
Right.
So you know I have to do some word study.
Yes.
Attitude is actually a real word used in aviation. And it's particularly in relationship to our nose and our wing of the plane to the horizon. Right? So attitude actually can be adjusted.
Yeah.
And they actually have attitude adjusters in each plane that help the pilot keep himself level.
That's right.
Because you could be pulling too far left at any point in time or too far right. Or completely off of the horizon line and could be actually plunging to your death because you don't have a rein in or a signal or some indicator that your attitude is off.
Yeah.
Now, that's just one thought. The other thought, which to me is just as important, if not more important, is that attitude only keeps you flying in what direction? Forward.
Of course.
So if you're going forward and you can change directions left and right, we're talking about latitude. So your attitude does not just dictate your altitude,
but also your latitude.
But also your latitude. And the reason why this is important, I'm so glad that you're here at the beginning of the show, is because latitude is degrees of freedom. And most of us are so focused on going up that we have no indication or any thought for the things that we can do laterally and around us, expansively, the impact, the reach, the influence we can have. So that's why it's important. And I love how you opened that because you said you've experienced negative pessimism or attitude toward you, but you consciously make a decision to not let it stop your momentum and direction.
And with it, I didn't say towards me, but it was, even if I did, the thing about it is sometimes people carry negative ways or they say something and it is pessimistic. Now, that may not be directed to me. They could be sharing what happened last night, what happened this morning. They're disappointed, frustrated, but that's still, it could change or signal my direction if I begin to be attuned to their frequency.
Woo.
So I make sure that as they're talking, yeah, I can listen, but I might cut them off a little bit and say, hey, listen, I really do have to go. And when I'm going, I am starting to think about the joyous things throughout the day. I'm starting to reframe all the signals and messages of pessimism and change that into optimistic nature. Because if not, sometimes people don't realize that when you're negative or you have a bad attitude, that stuff is like, those are like atoms that are in your sphere. They're in your, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
So they may not affect you now, but they could affect you later.
Absolutely.
So as opposed to letting it affect me at all, I step up real quick and I say, no, you're not going to change my latitude today. I am okay. I am well. That was you. This is me. Okay.
That's incredible. Now, it's funny because a lot of times people don't know these things, that they're participating and benefiting from these things, like in airplanes, in flight, transport, but they're missing the lessons. And so today, I hope that we can dig more on attitude from both perspectives so that people can get a great understanding of how they can, one, challenge their own attitude, accept challenge to their attitude, but also to see that they can have greater reach and greater impact and may actually, like you just said, be having greater reach and impact, but it is not creating momentum in the lives of the people around them.
Yeah, that's deep.
Yeah, very much so. So one of the things that is incredibly significant to me, I know we like to talk about scripture, but it's a great place to start.
Okay.
In the scripture, there's this prayer, and it was a man, his name was Jabez. And in this prayer, it's pretty famous. Even if someone doesn't believe, this is a great place to start the conversation. Because there was a prayer he made to God, kind of like when people think about Solomon, he asked for wisdom. Jabez didn't ask for what everyone thought he would have asked for. He asked God to enlarge his territory. In essence, what he wasn't saying was, I just want to be raised up to a high level or platform. He wasn't saying, I want to be a king or a prince. I'm not trying to be famous. He's like, I just want to have greater reach and greater impact because latitude is legacy.
That's it right there. Latitude is legacy. That's a whole book.
Absolutely. Sheesh. Don't y'all take it, because I might write it next.
Latitude is legacy.
Yeah.
Wow. You know, I felt conflicted with the aspirations that I have, high-level achiever that's built within me, to want to get to certain levels, not necessarily quickly, but with certainty, right? And I was challenged with something that I recently created that is an experience for women, and also will be segmented in other areas for other demographics. But sometimes I've seen that after I create something, I want it to reach a height, and I also want to be at that height.
Wow.
That can cause issues with my legacy because I may not be thinking about how I can just continue to reach, spread, and release.
Yeah.
So I did take time by myself to really think about, I'm out here trying to create things, and I'm out here creating things for a purpose that I don't have to continue to generate so much force in business, right? Let the work itself, okay? But with that, I also said, how much greater impact can I have with what I've created, and how far can it reach? Because whether you develop a course or you develop something, whatever, a workshop, that can be permanently just there in the moment. But how can it continue to reach the lives and reach the hearts of people throughout life, right? So when I started thinking about this, I thought about athletes, I thought about actors, performers, I thought about people in business that just keep making themselves higher without reaching down and saying, now, how can I reach the heart of that man, that woman, that child for good? How can I leave a permanent residue on what I have, but also how they can connect with it?
Yeah.
That's even deeper, I think, than just making sure that I'm rich, famous, and wealthy.
Right.
Where's the legacy in that?
And
legacy really it's not in there.
Absolutely. But what you have to remember, what you just said, and I'm saying this to you, our listener, our viewer, same thing. I was giving a keynote speak to a corporation in Florida, all right? They brought all their executive leadership down for this retreat. And one of the points that I made specifically was that they had to focus on the problem that they solved. But I used a different angle because a lot of people, when you're in business, you're thinking about it from a perspective of, okay, solve a problem, entrepreneurship, make money. That's not the point. You have to see that you personally solve a problem, and that's what gives you value. But the thing that you are promoting actually is solving a problem that someone has need of. So the point being changed from just solving a problem from the product to knowing that what you're doing is making an impact that goes further than you. The reason why I brought that up is because this particular company worked in healthcare. And I had to remind them, I said, you may not recognize that every role in here is actually a part of saving someone's life because they lost sense and value of what they were really doing.
Of course.
They were so focused on the bottom line that they forgot that the bottom line that they were really impacting was the bottom line on an EKG, someone's heart still pumping because of the product that they gave, the service that they offered. That's the problem that they're solving, that someone's life is literally in jeopardy. And if they had not had their product or their service intervene, they may not have life.
Right.
So they're making an impact that goes further and reaches bigger than the numbers on the sales scale.
Right, right.
Same concept.
Yeah, for sure. You know, bringing that up, I want to bring it also business to the athletic world. Recently, this year, if you don't know, 2024 is an Olympic year. As many athletes journey all across the world to accomplish this goal, it is very complex. It does cost a lot financially, not even to just go to the Olympics, but also to continue to train under pressure and be sponsored and partnered with companies that will invest in them. So with what I'm saying, two personal athletes I want to share a story about. So I have a good friend, Tiana Madison, one of the greatest athletes of all time, one of the GOATs, right? And I'll never forget, athletes sometimes don't even realize they are the secret solution. When an athlete performs, that is one aspect of their life. You're just seeing the work, all the fruit come to fruition in the harvest of the Olympics, in the World Championships, or at the meet, right? The greatest cornucopia, we're going to take a Thanksgiving for a second, but the greatest basket of fruit that I've ever witnessed came from her decision to speak. You already know where I'm going.
You sure right.
The decision to speak sometimes on behalf of your hurt, on behalf of being vulnerable and transparent, it gives other people that are maybe not athletes insight into your world. And when people feel like they're included in your world, they feel like they can trust you. They feel like they are relating to you and also can feel that level of humanity that is not just a super athlete that people can't compare to. It's like the woman that has travailed and been through and is now walking in her best self and most authentic self, but she shared what was going on beyond the track. And another athlete, his name is Will Williams. This is a phenomenal long jumper. This year, he has great potential to be one of the best in the top spots at the Olympic Games. Now, watch this. World Championships just happened, and for many athletes, it didn't go the way they thought. For many athletes are celebrated top 8, top 3, or even the best. And with that, there comes so much level of disappointment when you don't perform the way that you've been practicing, preparing for. That goes for the business person, the speaker, same thing, right? When things don't go your way, the student athlete even, you can get in such despair that you lose sight of your secret solution. Here's a secret solution that I witnessed and watched him go through. He utilized a moment of disappointment. He didn't, when you don't jump the way that you wanted to jump, it's like, and you go all the way out there. So here's the beauty. Here's the beauty of grace. He decided to use his voice and to use his platform to position what he felt was a disappointment, but also to cast light and shed light into a realm of I need support. There are other athletes that have made it all the way this far and they've done everything that they could, but don't just think we did it, didn't do it, great, and now it's over, and now we just look for the Olympic dream to be fulfilled. No, I need support now. I need to teach you. He utilized that moment to teach people how the athlete can suffer, but also find triumph in support.
Yeah, of course.
Now, when you reach this way, as opposed to imploding, as opposed to hiding the fact that you're disappointed, as opposed to hiding the fact that I can't keep doing this by myself. We've been there on the track where we've had to do it by ourselves. But when you reach with your voice onto platforms that have already been given to you, the secret solution, watch what happened. Agents, sponsors, athletes started reaching out to him saying, that was me too. I want to help you. I'm in position to be able to help you.
But again, the attitude.
Do you see what I'm saying?
The right attitude, even in disappointment, can change your latitude.
That's it.
And that's also so incredible, because one of the things I just took from what you're going to say, or excuse me, what you did say, was these are athletes at the top of their game.
Top.
So the vertical's there.
Yes.
They're on the elevated
Altitude
platform, but watch this, in other people's minds.
Yeah.
And what happens is a lot of times we will take on the platform or the pedestal that other people put us on and see ourselves up there. And we're so high that we lose touch with everything and everyone that could actually support us.
Come on.
So what happened was he came down off the high.
Come on.
He came down off of his throne and said, this is the reality of what I'm feeling, experiencing, and I need, despite the pedestal you may have seen or put me on.
Come on.
And that simple act brought him and took him further than the pedestal that he was on.
That's it.
That's it.
That's the secret solution.
That's the secret solution.
And it doesn't just apply to athletes.
That's right.
It applies to everyone.
Because sometimes you can be so high that your attitude about where you are, not even a negative attitude, but your positive attitude about where you think you are, could be the thing that is keeping you from reaching far.
Yeah.
But I know there was another documentary you were watching that really, truly impacted you, right?
Giannis Antetokounmpo.
Yeah.
So I recently watched his documentary and it was enamored by his story. It is, yes, an underdog story. And beyond even just that moment, I found so much brilliance in his life. The connection I made from the altitude where he is one of the greatest now, right?
Of course.
And he is so humble, and he comes from a Nigerian family, an African family. And it is so beautiful to know that when you come from humble beginnings, you can stay there. No matter what level you get to, this man, his whole life was exposed. But in his journey, humility was anchored. Good systems, having a good, strong family system.
Come on, talk about it, coach.
Was built in and hardwired in everything he did.
Absolutely.
He never forgot to reach here.
Yeah.
He never forgot to nourish the roots. He never even forgot to keep perspective of when this is all over, I still got people to take care of. Not only am I a father, not only am I a son, not only am I a brother, but if I leave them because I've gotten here, I'm doing a disservice to my purpose.
Absolutely, because altitude and latitude are different.
They are way different.
Latitude is legacy.
Latitude is legacy. And the way that he created legacy within his story is rich. I suggest that you watch it. It is called The Marvelous Journey. And the thing that got to my heart, what athletes don't always do, because there's many reasons, but they don't really share the brokenness that they feel in athletics. The being seen, but really not being seen.
Right.
Being heard, but really not being listened to.
100%.
Right? I think that when you develop your voice, and we help people understand how to do that with their stories. But when you start developing your voice, there's a uniqueness and vulnerability that can transcend not only your image, but it can transcend the hearts of men and women.
Yeah, I get you.
Like, it is a beautiful thing for a child to aspire to be like an NBA player, but not because he's just an NBA player.
Of course.
But because he goes back to the community.
Yeah.
He teaches, he coaches, he passionately pours into. He guides them with life principles. He tells them to decisions to really make while you're young, while you're an adolescent, while you're a student athlete in college, and then how to be a professional on the platform of life.
Absolutely.
Not just the platform of the league.
That's right, man. But you know what you said that's so important to point out for you, for me, is that you already said he had systems in place.
He did.
He has a healthy circle in place.
100%.
He has people that he is pouring into and also people that pour into him. And going back to that flight illustration, there are attitude indicators that are built into planes. And they are a very small component. And yet it is one of the most sensitive components. Because you have to think about it. If you're tilted too far to the left, or too far to the right, or if your nose is diving and you think you're flying straight, you are going to die. It is always life or death for you and also for others.
Right.
The point I'm making is that we have to be sensitive to our attitude indicators. And we have to have people in our life that we can trust who can be an attitude indicator when we're leaning too far left. Or we're leaning too far right. And you know the worst thing about this in aviation, if these things aren't checked and maintained, think about what happens to planes in the sky and wings, and the temperature is extremely cold.
Of course.
They freeze and they can become stuck. And so you can be flying your whole life thinking you're going straight and going further and further away from your destiny or your purpose because you're intentionally focused on what you think is the direction that you should go, but you're not paying attention to the attitude indicator that's saying you are flying into a deadly spiral. And here's what's so crazy. In aviation, there's this spin. It's a death spin that people don't even, like, it's really crazy. I remember talking to a pilot. I met him in a hotel one day, and he was talking to me about his experiences and things he's been through and how he crashed his plane at sea one time and he was lost, and a big rig came by and happened to see him in the water, just all kinds of crazy stuff, right?
Wow.
But the stories you hear, because there are things you don't think about. I heard a pilot one time say, in the air, if you're not truly focused on your indicators, everything looks up just as much as it looks down. He said there are stories of pilots that have flipped their planes upside down and flown to their destination because their indicators were broken or mismanaged, or they didn't know how to properly read them or care for them. And that's the point. Sometimes you could be upside down on what you're after, thinking you're seeing right side up. And the reason why you're disagreeing with anything and everyone that comes against what you're saying is because your head, your mind has adjusted to the wrong way.
That's hard. Yeah. It's very difficult because even small voices can be attitude indicators.
Absolutely.
That can change the latitude of and trajectory of your life, you know? And I really believe that always having a voice in your life that is able to not just support and encourage you.
That's right.
But to challenge you when you do start tipping to the left, when you do start tipping to the right, because it is for your safety. If you have someone in your life like that, you're already rich. You're already wealthy. And even thinking about the journey, the prowess of entrepreneurs and of athletes and of professionals all around the world, you know, there's mentorship, there's coaching, there's direct guidance. And an indicator can guide you on how you need to be level, how you need to adjust with the altitude difference, the climactic changes, the environmental pressures, whatever it is. And you have to be sensitive enough to give heed to that guidance.
And that's it.
Sensitive.
You can ignore it if you want to.
No, I wouldn't. Crash and burn, I wouldn't. And many people do.
And that's the point.
Many people do, you know?
That's why we say attitude and altitude, but attitude and latitude.
Right.
Because both are your trajectory.
Right.
You know, it's incredible that you said what you said, because the last point I want to make about attitude indicators that I was trying to stress is that they have to be managed and paid attention to more particularly than any other thing in your life. There are plenty of things in your life that tell you, man, you flying high.
Of course.
You flying good. Woo, look how fast you fly. But that one little blip, that one little flash, you need to manage that thing. And what I want to say is you need to give more attention to, more care to, more thanks to, more gratitude to the people in your life that call you out on you.
Yeah, that's right. And yeah, I thought about something as well. Going back with the athletic perspective, injury is an indicator, obviously something is wrong.
Sure, but by that time, there was already some warning
there were
that
definitely,
you were ignoring.
Right, there were indicators prior, but once an athlete gets injured, they can be benched, they can be sidelined for months, a year, or forever, right? Now, the thing about this is that when athletes are paused, or when the business leader has to position because they might be going bankrupt, they might have to cessate everything, right? Or maybe going through an audit, like whatever it is,
Right.
There is a moment where you can actually respect a pause. And in that moment, you can start positioning your voice. You can start positioning your story. You could start positioning your leadership with your team. So what I'm trying to express is that our theme is latitude is legacy, right? Our theme is talking about altitude and attitude. But your attitude when things don't go your way, and your attitude when you're forced to stop the momentum that you've been generating for so long and you're comfortable with, that discomfort sometimes can position your voice and your being into something that is higher than you might have aspired, higher than you might have thought, but you have to give it a moment.
Yeah.
You have to respect that not every time you have to pause, it's a bad thing.
That's right.
Not every time you didn't make the podium is a bad thing.
Man, and in fact, it's in those moments that you get a chance to check to make sure everything is running the way it's supposed to. And I think that's what we miss.
And even with aviation, how many times have we sat on a plane? Thank God it's not been too many, but people have experienced that. You sit on a plane, you're ready to go to your destination. Reporting we do have.
Yeah.
Right?
We'll be sitting here at the terminal
here on the tarmac for an hour, for 30.
Well, they don't want to tell you. They'll be saying, it'll be a few more minutes, folks.
But that's what we can interpret, right? Because something is wrong.
But you'd rather be safe than them take off. You would rather that they fix
stops,
it may be an
inconvenience, blows,
but ain't nothing more inconveniencing than death.
Than death itself.
Or injury.
Thank you.
Or detriment.
Correct.
So I would rather take the time. And I love that you use that illustration because that is what we want to close with. You have to take an evaluative look at your attitude. And you have to remember that it's not just about ascension. It's also about dispersion.
Yeah.
How can you reach and give the most of who you are through what you're doing?
Yeah.
And also check your attitude when things aren't moving the way they should be, because it's an opportunity for you to make adjustments. And oftentimes, let me just say this to compliment you. It may be that you're ready, but it could be a small adjustment that would have impeded some type of doom on you had you taken the flight prematurely.
Right.
So be grateful for those moments. And then also honor the people and the things that challenge you directly.
Yeah.
Because I love hearing this, and I see people waking up finally in life, realizing it's not the people that care for you or love you the most who are always patting you on the back and always telling you how great you are. It's the people that honor how great you are, but say, this thing right here, though, between us or between them or between all of what you want to do, if you don't correct it or get it right, it is going to wreck the impact you could have had.
Come on.
And worse, it's going to pass on the very same thing that you don't think is a major problem to other people. And guess how major that problem will be once it is passed on to other people.
Wow.
Yeah.
We're going to close that up right there.
Yes, ma'am. Well, thank you guys for joining us on another episode of Aspire Higher with Coach Charles and Ivana Bailey. We always tell you, please hit that like, hit subscribe, hit share if you really enjoy this. We want you to remember that we are keynote speakers. So if you want us to come inspire your team, and my wife has an incredible seminar called Wake Up Woman. We have some other things coming down the pike, some big things. I'm not just saying that. Like when we talk about helping people maximize their platforms, we are serious. We put our money where our mouth is and our movement where it is too. So we're getting ready to launch something that we can't wait for you to see. But until then, do us the favor, support, call us if you need help, and we do appreciate you for your time.